So I hope this is satisfactory. Urbanelf, for you to say that there are two points of reference that a sign can have. One, the word refers to its meaning, and then the meaning refers to a thing, say an object, in reality. That's fine. That's fine. And in that, we could say that if a sign refers to a meaning which refers to nothing that exists, then a statement saying that this sign doesn't exist is true. It's a complicated way of saying if a statement is true, then it is true, or if a statement is false, then it is false. Perhaps that's precisely what you're going after, and that's why you felt very confident in making it your first premise. However, the problem is that your tactic, your strategy for the entire argument had everything to do with posing with us two categories: a proper name, definite description, in which you at least implied that all true signs, all true words, if you could say something like that, would reside in one of these two categories. And you pose to us, because the word God cannot fit into either category, it must have a meaning that refers to nothing. The problem, though, is in both categories, you will have not just the complete set of all true words, but you'll also have a complete set of all false words. Even if God did not exist, it would not mean that the word God is not somehow a proper name or not somehow a definite description. It would still be in one of those categories. And it's from that that I made the critique that you got started off on the wrong foot. Okay? Because your strategy was to exclude the two categories from what God could or could not be, or the word God. And that's faulty, because that's not going to prove to us that God exists or doesn't exist. The bit about premises has everything to do with a statement implying either a condition or, say, a statement of fact, or a statement that implies a consequent. And if a statement implies a consequent, then it is not what I'm calling a premise. What's important to note here, though, is that this was a point of clarification. It was a point of housekeeping. And even if I'm right, and I could convince everyone around you that I'm right, that point of housekeeping would not at all lead us to believe that your conclusion is necessarily right or necessarily wrong. Okay? That has nothing to do with my critique of your argument. It has everything to do with why I had to spend 3 nights mulling through this. Because if you consider a premise something, a statement that implies a consequent, you infer a whole lot of things. There's a latent premise within that kind of statement that needs to be unpacked. And if it's not unpacked, it makes it more difficult for people to respond to, like me. Or it can also be the breeding ground for errors, which is what I think happened in this video. I don't think you're stupid. I really don't. If I came off as arrogant and condescending, then that's my fault. I think you are an intelligent individual, and that all that was wrong with this video was just a convoluted argument. It was a convoluted tactic. You were trying to be sneaky, you were trying to be witty, you were trying to, just give us the old 1-2. But what you're trying to do here, and perhaps this has everything to do with your next video where you talk about the set of all true claims and all these kinds of things, but what it comes down to is that you can't say something like, if Socrates, then man. All right? Socrates is a man is a statement of fact. It is not a statement of consequence. If it was a statement of consequence, I could name a dog Socrates and expect it to turn into a man. But none of us would assume that that's going to happen. The reason, actually, that you were able to wrap your entire argument back around to that first premise, or what you called a first premise, was because that was a statement of consequence. You see, in Aristotle's syllogism, you have a statement of fact, and a statement of consequence. It's the statement of consequence that becomes the conclusion, and indeed what you call a first premise becomes your ultimate conclusion to your video, where you wrap it all back around and say, therefore God doesn't exist. The only way that you could do that is if the statement itself inferred a consequence from the beginning. Now, like I said, if you want to continue doing things that way, that's your own deal. It has nothing to do, it will not directly necessarily affect the validity or invalidity of your claim. It will just make the issue more complicated than what it needs to be. That's all. Because it's people like you, sir, who spend so much time thinking about these kinds of things. If God does not exist, it will be a person like you that will demonstrate it. I have no doubt in my heart that that will be the case. If God does not exist, it will be either you, sir, or a person of your demeanor that will demonstrate it. Clean up your arguments and you may get there faster.